If Jason and I wanted to make an investment in soccer, what's your pitch?
Well, I think it's the truly global sport. I mean, right now we're in China negotiating broadcast deals for China. In terms of revenue, so for the Women's World Cup, it'll be $1 billion in revenue for next summer. And for the Men's World Cup, you're probably talking upwards of $4 to $6 billion, I would say, in that range. So yeah, I mean, the numbers are big, but those are the numbers that go back into the sport.
Welcome back to The Deal. I'm Jason Kelly.
And I'm Alex Rodriguez.
All right, Alex, coming up on the show, Jill Ellis. She is the chief football officer of FIFA, meaning she's one of the chief architects of the global game of soccer. Also, not for nothing, she won a couple of World Cups in 2015 and 2019 as the head of the U.S. women's national team. The World Cup, even if you wanted to escape it, you couldn't.
And I haven't. I'm down in Miami. I mean, it is everywhere, and I cannot wait to dive into the numbers of what FIFA represents.
And all eyes are going to be what happens next in the business of soccer. Coming up, Jill Ellis. Jill Ellis, FIFA's chief football officer. You know, Alex, we love to make this show timely. What is more timely than talking to the chief football officer of FIFA on the eve of the World Cup? So let's start there. How are you feeling about this World Cup?
I mean, excited. I think what I've learned over time, whether either competing in them or watching them, is there's always a lot of controversy. It always feels like a three-ring circus kind of getting into there, but once the games kick off, it's magical. So excited. Obviously, I'm from the US, so it's exciting to have a World Cup back here on the shores of America. So I think it's going to be brilliant.
You're feeling it down in Miami, aren't you?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I think for the first time, Joe, I was born in New York, but I've been in Miami around 40 plus years. And I think soccer right now could be the number one, if not the number one sport, the number one kind of conversation and narrative around. I mean, you have Beckham, you have Messi, you have the championship, and there's so many people that it's a melting pot. And I guess my question to you, obviously, FIFA, probably I'll be throwing the coin flip.
Flip it.
Oh,
Flip it.
Excited about it.
Amazing.
But sell me on the sport. Like, if it was an investment, obviously I'm into women's sports with the W. I'm into men's sports with the NBA team with the Wolves. If Jason and I wanted to make an investment in soccer, what's your pitch?
Well, I think it's the truly global sport. I mean, you always hear, obviously, you've got American football, baseball, but it's played everywhere. So I think you've got an immediate global audience. There's not a bigger audience for it than, obviously, the World Cup. I mean, even the Women's World Cup, 2 billion viewers in 23. So you've got probably the most global sport out there. I think it's in the US, it's trending. I mean, I think it's becoming probably the largest participation sport amongst youth. So you've now got a whole generation of people playing it. You've got established professional leagues here. I mean, 30 plus teams in the MLS, obviously the Women's League. So it's not just emerging anymore. It's very much here. There's a baked-in fan base. You've got an educated fan base now. You've had success. Obviously the women's teams had a lot of success on the global stage. Listen, I think it's a can't-miss sport. And I think people that are engaging in sport, and especially in America where we make it something that it's can't miss, it's such an exciting sport. I mean, there's nothing like the last 5 minutes of a soccer game.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned, Jill, the three-ring circus of it all. And it may be a 12-ring circus at this point in this lead up. We're talking to you just, a few weeks before it all kicks off. And everybody's talking about something. I recently, talked with your colleague, Johnny Infantino, about ticket prices. Yep. People are worried about visas. People are worried about who's going to play. Like, what, from your job perspective, like, what do you worry about in this, sort of like tense lead up to the matches actually getting played?
I mean, I certainly think it's, you want to have full stadiums. Safety is always something when you think about massive global events that you want to make sure that those things are in place. But ultimately, it's getting the teams here, getting the stars here. Once, again, we had the Club World Cup last summer, and there was a lot of debate and controversy about, is this the right event? As soon as the matches kick off, the fans are in the stands, people gravitate towards that, and it plays out. And I think that's, I think as a former coach as well, you also know there's always the anticipation for that first whistle, that first moment. And then once it happens, I think people settle into it. But I think one of the things that people have talked about this World Cup is we've now got 48 teams. It's the largest World Cup ever. It's going to be, countries, debutantes here. It'll be, are the games going to be competitive? And I think that's going back to my early comment about this sport being truly global is, yes, I think on any given day, you're going to see, one of the minnows beat the giants. And that's kind of what the exciting thing about this sport is. You've got such, the whole world really participating.
Give us an idea of some of the numbers as far as how many people around the world would watch these events, like the last 2 championship games, for example.
Yep.
And what kind of revenue would you say it generates?
Well, I think the last World Cup, and obviously that was Qatar, I think it was 5 billion globally. The Women's World Cup, 2 billion.
5 billion?
Yep.
5 billion people.
Yep. The Women's World Cup in 23 was 2 billion. We're projecting, 2.5 to 3 billion. I mean, it's broadcast. I mean, right now we're in China negotiating broadcast deals for China. The whole world really tunes in. In terms of revenue, so for the Women's World Cup, we're projecting this will be a $500 million increase. It'll be $1 billion in revenue for next summer in 2027. And for the Men's World Cup, you're probably talking upwards of 4 to 6 billion, I would say, in that range. So yeah, I mean, the numbers are big, but those are the numbers that go back into the sport. For example, we give FIFA gives every participating country, that's 211. They get FIFA forward money. So the money gets redistributed back into the investment of the sport.
Jason, I have a question for you. I mean, You're the business person, expert here. When you hear Jill say numbers like $1 billion for the women, 5 billion, what is the comp that you've seen?
There is no comp. I mean, that's the thing is there is no comp. And one of the interesting things, Jill, that, as I've dug into this and spending time with Johnny on this topic is, there is so much anticipation around this World Cup in North America because of the scale of it. Yeah. And, one of the things, and I would love to talk a little bit about accessibility and ticket prices, because I asked Johnny this question and he gave me a statistic, which you got to keep me honest here, Jill, when I repeat it, which is, this is going to blow your mind. The previous 2 World Cups, they have, people request tickets, and there were 50 million ticket requests for the last 2 combined.
Oh my gosh.
For this one World Cup, this one that's coming up, 500 million ticket requests. So 10x the last 2. So I guess my question to you, Jill, on that is, with that sort of demand, how do you manage the supply? Like, what are the conversations you guys have inside of FIFA? Because you have to manage the economics completely differently with that sort of demand.
Well, in fairness, there's a whole team that manages this event, right?
Sure.
So we have a whole team behind it. But I mean, I think the dynamic ticket pricing is very real. I think that's the other thing. FIFA's been taking a lot of hits about the ticket pricing, but the reality is the demand is so big that you can't control all of the resale and all these types of things. But internally, they have to keep a lot back, obviously, for partners. How do you eke it out? How do you make sure that the demand is there? I mean, we've still got certain games that I think we're trying to push and to sell. But they have a whole branch of ticketing experts that go in there and look at everything. I mean, even when you map out where you want teams to play, right? Mm-hmm. Who do you want in what venue? I mean, we're doing this currently right now with the Women's World Cup. We haven't released the schedule because we're looking at the size of the stadiums. Where do you want teams playing to maximize revenue? So yeah, this strategy happens years in advance for sure.
That sort of demand, I mean, can you, I'm turning this back on you. I mean, can you fathom that sort of demand? I mean, you have a couple pretty popular teams, but like that level is, I mean, it's hard to fathom.
I wish I can only dream.
Well, and we're getting hit for, ticket prices, but you're right. I mean, the demand is so high that it drives the markets.
And so with that sort of demand, Jill, one of the things that comes to mind for me is, how do you factor that in on the sporting side? Whether it is thinking about the matchups, thinking about which teams and which countries are going to be the dominant storylines. How do you maximize that as a business? How do you lean into it on the sporting side?
Well, it's certainly, I mean, we're playing in massive stadiums, but if you look next summer in Brazil, there's 60, 70,000 seat stadiums. I mean, which for the women's game it's massive and it's a heavy lift. So it's exactly that. It's who do you want playing where? Obviously, there's not ultimate control because it's a draw and it's a random draw. But in terms of where teams play, making sure that, South Korea is playing in LA, they've got an amazing player there in Son. And so making sure they're on the West Coast. And so it's looking at location, population, and obviously general interest. I mean, a team. So for example, last summer, it didn't matter where you put Real Madrid will sell out.
In the Club World Cup.
In the Club World anywhere. And there's certain teams. I mean, Colombia has a phenomenal. Every time you see the U.S. play Colombia in the U.S. on the men's side, it's full of yellow jerseys.
Right.
Obviously, Mexico will be playing in Mexico, but there's just an immense amount, especially because we're such a melting pot. I mean, there's going to be a large following that will travel. And that's the other thing you think about. What fans will travel?
Right.
The Scottish fans will come. They'll travel. I mean, there's just some amazing fan bases.
Jason, we have crazy fans in America. Now, in Miami, I'm really feeling it. There's a very European feeling in Miami. Now, they start partying at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, drinking. So I guess my question is, who are some of the craziest, most rabid fan bases, if you had to say a few?
Listen, the Latin American market is phenomenal. I mean, Argentina bring amazing fans. Colombia the same. I mean, I think those fans, they don't stop the entire game, moving their arms, singing. I mean, it's nonstop, and that's what's going to be really cool for, I think, the U.S. fans to experience is. We're kind of like a golf clapping kind of fan base compared to the rest of the world who are just rabid for 90 minutes. But yeah, I mean the South American fans are brilliant. I mean, listen, my mom was Scottish. God bless her. Those fans they're crazy. They will be probably starting at 6 a.m. But and then you actually add to that because tailgating is not a thing in Europe or the rest of the world. You now add that you're going to open up potentially the stadium earlier. I mean, I think it's going to be crazy. They have marches to stadiums. That's really big things in this world.
Well, and that entertainment piece, I think you'll appreciate this, Alex. It is so fascinating to me because and Jill, again, keep me honest here. Like, it does feel like FIFA as a whole is leaning very much into the sort of entertainment aspect of sports. I mean, I think about what you guys do in Minnesota. I mean, that's just kind of table stakes, but soccer, it feels like, is learning a lot about how to build around the match. Is that fair,
Yeah,
Jill?
I mean, listen, we have offices in Miami now, and in fairness, Gianni's spent a lot of time now going to American sports. We went to an Orlando basketball game. The idea of the players coming out one by one, being introduced. We did that last year in the Club World Cup. So there's a lot of learnings just that sport as entertainment is, I think is very real. I mean, last year we were walking around stadiums and just seeing the amount of premium hospitality. You don't see that in Europe. You don't see that in South America in terms of just space. So I think, we're learning a lot. Hydration breaks that you can actually commercialize now. I mean, there's all kinds of different things. One of the things he loved was the fitness cam, the dance cam. I mean, these are things that in Europe, they're very traditional because the game is the focal point and nobody gets distracted by anything else. Whereas I think in America, we're used to having a show around the show kind of thing.
Also, I can just imagine, Jill, the social impact of social media, the connectivity around the world is just massive, those numbers. But Jason, I'm also wondering the economic impact to a city like New York.
Yeah.
Those numbers have to be bonkers. And I'm assuming, Joe, that those fan bases we just talked about travel very in packs, right?
Yep.
And they travel well.
Yeah, I mean, and Jason, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but
no, I mean, I think it's very true. I mean, this is one of the big, I dare say, like, this is one of the big question marks around this World Cup is, we got a little bit of a preview of it, to your point, from the Club World Cup. Some good, some bad, in terms of like access to the stadiums and, can people get there? Can they travel there? There's been a lot of talk about how much it's going to cost to get to MetLife. I mean, these are the kinks that definitely are being worked out that probably, I mean, certainly in the last World Cup in Qatar, you and I were in Doha together and actually spent some time talking about the sort of these mega events. Everything was very, very contained. You could go to multiple matches in a day in different stadia. Here it's much more spread out. I think these are big questions that we actually won't know until the matches really get underway, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, again, I think some events are still selling. How much fans will travel? I mean, obviously, visas, issues coming into the country. I think, we're trying to mitigate those as much as possible. But, sometimes people's hesitation. I mean, we saw it last year. CONCACAF hosted their tournament and, at the time, people were uncertain about going to the stadiums. But, I think the Club World Cup showed last year that, when you get there, it is a great event. It's a safe event. But, I mean, there's nothing quite like coming and seeing, you experience it with the Baseball World Cup. Countries, that national pride, there really isn't anything quite like it.
Yeah, it's almost like 10-1 to a regular game or even a playoff game because, for example, in Miami, I had a very much of a European soccer feel where there was like concerts going on 5-6 hours before the game. and people were chanting and they had their flags, and it's just a very patriotic like theme that is it's hard to describe unless you're there.
Yep.
So it's interesting in talking to you, Jill, even for the past little bit, about how fluidly you move in your job, and obviously based on your experience between the men's game and the women's game. It is not at all hyperbole to say you've been a chief architect of the women's game globally and certainly in this country. Where are we in that journey? You know, I mean, I know we're very focused on the World Cup, the Men's World Cup this summer, but there'll be one next summer for the women. How would you describe the state of the women's game?
I mean, I think it's, you know, the signals are out there, right? We're seeing attendances go up. I mean, I think the Denver NWSL team, it was 62,000, 63,000. So you're seeing a lot of these amazing signals. You know, the Women's World Cup next year. And so, yes, I straddle both, but obviously have one eye on next summer as well, because, you know, this will be the first. I mean, it was 500 million, I think they made off of the last one. Now we're looking at $1 billion, and 100% of that money will be reinvested into women's football, which is huge. But we're also seeing the ecosystem grow. We're seeing now global club championships for women, like we have on the men's side. We're seeing professional leagues become more stable, become more, you know, in terms of attendance, investment. So I think, listen, even internally in FIFA, it used to be that everything, and this was true, and I think in a lot of sports, you sell the men's game, the women's game was an add-on. You sell this, it was an add-on. Now we're unbundling rights. We've just got the highest media deal ever for next summer's World Cup. Netflix is paying for a 1-month tournament, which is incredible numbers. So we're suddenly seeing this unbundling, unpackaging, because I think it can stand alone.
Yeah. And so to that point, you know, I've followed the NWSL very closely for a number of years now. And, you know, it was not that long ago, and you remember it well, I'm sure, that this was a league that was in existential crisis. You know, the Yates Report 2022 comes out. You and a lot of other people were, you know, in that report, and there was a concern that the league wouldn't go on. What's changed? Like what has happened in those intervening years that gives you confidence that women's soccer, and especially women's soccer in this country, is on the right track?
Well, I think it's, you know, it's stability. I mean, we're in our third iteration of a women's professional league. So the first two failed. So this one has now been, I think we're in year 13, perhaps. You're seeing the growth of it in terms of teams added. You know, we went from 12, now we're at 16. So you're just seeing all of the numbers go up in that. But I think it's the professionalization of the game, I think, at its core. I mean, if you put the players in the middle of it, it was part-time contracts. It was paying for their own luggage to get on planes. It was things that just, you know, shouldn't really happen in professional sports. Now you're seeing legitimate minimum standards imposed. You're seeing, you know, facilities being specifically built now for women's teams. So there's just a lot more stability. I think there's a lot more attention on it. There's a lot more a regulation of the sport as well, in terms of, you know, expectations and like I said, minimum standards. So I think all of those things attribute to it.
I can tell you, Jill, when you were speaking, I was like, wait a minute. Is she speaking about the WNBA? It was exactly the same playbook and the same traction. But I was recently at the WNBA draft, and we had the second pick, and I had an opportunity to speak to a lot of the young women. And I said to a few of them, I said, are you excited? Is your family happy? She goes, heck yeah. I'm a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. And they said it with such pride, and they deserve it. And I do think that the economic growth and the compensation is going to recruit other young women to say, why can't I also play in the WNBA? I want to be a millionaire.
What's interesting is, and I don't know if this is the same, but in women's soccer, women's football, for example, as the sport is growing and the ecosystem is growing and the players for sure are getting more, we're actually seeing less women in leadership, on coaching and the sidelines. So as it becomes more economically viable, you're now seeing a lot of men going into, you know, for example, coaching. We only have, I think, 3 head coaches that are female in the NWSL. In the Women's Professional League in England, I think it's 2 to 3. So we also have to make sure we're investing not just in the players, but the pathway for owners, for leadership, for GMs, for these other roles in women's sports, I think is a part of that.
Isn't one of the changes that you made that every team must have at least one female head coach or coach?
An assistant or a head coach. Yeah, I mean, and the reality is you hope these things happen organically, but they haven't. I mean, listen, the U.S. Title IX was a game changer for us in terms of access and opportunity. But we're seeing less and less women on the sidelines. And I think, this was a passion for Gianni. He was like, I want every head coach to be female. I'm like, we're not quite there yet. We've got to make sure that these coaches are prepared, that they have, experience, that they have education through coaching licenses. So it's not just creating the regulation, it's creating the pathway to the regulation.
I read a quote of yours about your current job that you said you didn't come into this job to, and again, keep me honest here, to protect comfort. You're a straight talker.
Yep.
What is some straight talk that you've given to your colleagues at FIFA and to Gianni about growing the women's game and what FIFA's role can be in ensuring that, these, in investment terms, these gains are consolidated?
Well, yeah, yes, Gianni appreciates, the straight talk. I just gave a speech to Congress and basically to the 211 presidents of the federations, just sort of said to them, like, if you don't invest in women's football, you're missing out. Like your countries care about winning. It's not just whether it's a gender thing, it's about winning. So, provoking and encouraging people to invest because, and I said in this speech, it's not an obligation. It shouldn't be an obligation. It should be something you look at as a viable economic decision as you move forward. But yeah, just conversations, looking at how we look at how media rights are framed. Pushing, yes, we've got a great deal with America, but yes, guess what? The rest of the world should also be paying. So it's everything from media rights deals to meeting with our CMO, Romy, and, pushing into sort of challenging him to sort of say, hey, listen, this is packaged. How many standalone do we have for the Women's World Cup?
Interesting.
So a lot of different conversations around that. But ultimately, it's like, what are we doing? Like the Club World Cup for women, it's now a real thing. The first iteration will be in 2028. It's important that it's a high standard. And I've said to them, we've got to have it in a region, hopefully it will be here in the US, that we can commercialize it, that we can really give it what it deserves in terms of access around the world, viewership.
All right, we're going to move to our rapid fire. Pretty easy. We'll bounce it back and forth. I'll start and then you pick up. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Favorite World Cup memory as a coach?
France 2019, quarterfinals.
Favorite World Cup memory as a fan?
Qatar, last World Cup final. Amazing. France, Argentina, classic.
That was a hell of a match. Storyline you're most excited about going into this World Cup?
Just the debutantes, the new teams. I think it's exciting.
One change to the World Cup you would make tomorrow?
I would put 500 tickets aside for kids, just for kids to come.
All right, that's a good one. Underrated host city for 2026?
Oh, God, my wife's from Kansas City, so I can't say that. I don't think there is one. I think these cities are going to be amazing.
Favorite player of all time?
Oh, I'm Maradona, male player, Maradona.
And women?
Women's player, I would probably go with Marta.
Team you'd like to see win a championship more than any?
My team since I was 7 was Man United. So we need to get back on top.
Yeah.
World Cup. Come on, I want to see the U.S. win a World Cup, Men's World Cup.
Jill Ellis, thank you so much. This was
pleasure.
really fun.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you.